So the lecture of tonight, and good evening, everyone, is from the book Living Spring, chapter 45, which the name is Only This Way. And it's a very beautiful passage that is in John chapter 15 that we're going to talk about it. So Jesus is basically saying, "In this is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit. Thus, you will be my disciples." And I thought that it was so deep, this invitation from Jesus, basically telling us what his expectation is about us, that we bear fruit. So what does it mean to really bear fruit? I decided to go back to the New Testament, to John, to basically read this passage to understand what Jesus was trying to say. And he is basically teaching his disciples about his relationship with God himself, saying that he is basically divine. Jesus is divine, God is divine, that we need to be connected to that vine, meaning the grapevine. And the metaphor that he's using is very connected to the agricultural mindset that they all had, nature plus wine, that was very important for them. But basically saying that for the branches to flourish, they need to be connected to the vine, which is so simple. If we basically trim the branch, it's gonna die. Every time that we have flowers, we were talking about this a few minutes ago. If I want to have flowers at my home, I probably want to have live flowers. They bring a lot of good energy. But if I buy roses, they already dead. So he wants us to continue to be connected. So what does that mean? Jesus is basically emphasizing our relationship with him and his relationship with God, so we can bear fruit, so we can be fruitful, so we can be alive. So as Emmanuel gets this small paragraph, which is chapter 15, verse 8, he starts like this. In our times of affliction, the Father is invoked. In times of joy, he's worshipped. On stormy nights, he's anxiously longed for. On festive days, he's solemnly revered. And we can all see us over there, how our reaction or how we face God changes based on what we are living in the moment. So we were talking about exchanging things with God, like, I make some promises and then I am able to change my job, or, lose weight, or, change to a new city, or get married, find a husband, I don't know. And as if that will be the type of relationship that we want to have with the creator of the universe, right? Praised by his thankful children and forgotten by the ingrates, the Father always gives, spreading the blessings of his infinite goodness among the good and the bad, the just and unjust. So Emmanuel is very clear that God is like a sun that is shining all day long to all of us. We may decide to be under the sun umbrella, and that's on us. But the sun is over there, outside. He's basically giving us life, the eternal life, all the blessings that we need to be fruitful. But it's our decision to be there or not, to meet him or not. He teaches the worm to crawl, the bush to grow, and the human being to think. And this is very important because he's looking at this element of the evolution of the spirit since the animal kingdom. I mean, like a simple worm. So we know that as creations of God, we start very simple, like an atom, and then we are developed through the millions and billions of years until we become a human being. But we have to experience through our growth different type of learnings. So the first learning is basically the union of the atoms. Then the second learning is basically the sensations, or the union of the atoms, which is the mineral of kingdom, and then the sensations with the plants, and then the instincts with the animal kingdom. And then as humans, we become the intelligent principle, and we have intelligence. So we are able not only to act, to react, but we are able to use reason and act, make choices. Nonetheless, no one should have any doubts about what the Supreme Lord expects from us. So this is very important. He's shining his light among all of us, giving his blessings all the time, but he does have some expectation. Is his expectation for us to stop eating chocolate or stop drinking soda? No. His expectation from us is that we bear fruit. So that's what we're going to talk about. From one lifetime to the next, he helps us to grow, to serve him, so that someday we may become part of his divine love and glorify him. So that's the expectation. The expectation is that we grow strong in a way that we can pay it forward, that we can be part of his network of love, that we can be his arms, his eyes, his mouth, giving love and spreading love and joy and hope to the ones that need more than us. However, we will never arrive at such a condition simply by means of 1,000 bright hues of sentiments and reasoning. Our higher ideals are indispensable. So he's saying there is a criteria to achieve that. Higher ideals. And at heart, they resemble the most beautiful and fragrant flowers of a tree. Our learning is essential, we say. We need to study. Of course, and in essence, it comprises the robustness of the respectable trunk. So as we learn, we become stronger with the knowledge. So we are able to act better on the midst of the storms. Our lofty aspirations to become better people are precious and necessary, and they represent the living and promising leaves. So if we look at the trees, the majority of the trees, we see that the leaves are always looking at the sun. For those of us who put the little flowers and plants on the window, it's so cute because we see that they all thrive towards the sun, and that's what we should do. We need to look for the sun and use that path, kind of looking for that divine guidance on everything we do. Only when we open ourselves to our Father's decrees of universal love, working for the eternal good, can we glorify him. So we need to work on this eternal path, I would say, doing good to others. To that end, the Master was clear in his statement. May your activity on life's journey produce much fruit of peace and wisdom, love and hope, faith and joy, justice and mercy, in a constant and worthy personal endeavor. Constant and worthy. It's not once a week, 1 hour a week, every Sunday at 10 a.m. No. For that is the only way we can glorify the Father and the only condition in which we can be disciples of the crucified and resurrected Master. So it's pretty profound, the call here. Jesus was not really kind of a code shaping anything here. He is calling us out on his expectation as his children. So the same way that we have our rights and responsibilities in society, we should understand that we have our free will, but we do have our responsibilities to God as well. So he's telling us here, and I put this picture from Rio de Janeiro because many times when we are praying, we are looking up and then we think that, okay, I am suffering, and then many times I pray more. And then when life is good, I forgot about church, I forgot about the spirit center, I forgot about the prayers, and life goes on until I hit a block. And then I have a wake-up call. Some of us remember to worship in the times of good as well. Stormy nights, depending on the faith that we have, we may get more and less anxious about the situation. And in festive days, for example, like Christmas, we revered Jesus. But how are we revering Jesus? Is through our actions or is through giving gifts, exchanging gifts, or eating a lot, or making a feast? Our life is very similar to the seasons that we encounter during the year. Today I was walking outside with the dog and I noticed that some of the cherry trees are already blossomed. And we need to remember that about our lives as well. There's times that, the trees that I have in my backyard, they still look like that. But like the daffodils are already out. The cherry trees are basically calling, okay, springtime is coming, it's time to blossom. And I thought that this theme was so aligned with this moment of changing the season that the nature is basically inviting us to basically bear fruit. We know that the fruit comes after the flowers. The flowers are beautiful, but the importance is that the fruit that is coming from that will give the seed. Emmanuel is saying that the Father is always giving, spreading the blessings among us. These blessings can be invisible and many of us really don't see. It can be a friend, it can be a book, it can be a spirit center, it can be an encounter it can be a problem sometimes, because that problem may be that challenge, maybe that wake-up call that I need to make an important change that may secure that this incarnation is valuable for me, for my progress, that basically brings me back to track so I can continue to grow as eternal spirit. And I like this image of a waterfall because it's so strong, it's so intense. And without water, we cannot live. Without sun, we cannot live either. But when we think about the plants, the water, the sun, they are super important to the growth of the plant, as God it is for us as well. Both in Ephesians, in the scripture, Ephesians 1:3, and the dictionary, they describe blessing as a benefit. But and we're going to talk a little bit about this benefit. What does it mean? But one thing that I think it's very important to us is to understand that no matter what I do, no matter what I believe or my disbelief, I may not even believe that God exists. And there is this force behind everything that happens that I cannot control. It's not by chance. It's not luck. That doesn't change the fact that God is always giving to us. So I think this is a message of hope, very important for us, that even if I think that I don't deserve, I'm still receiving it. But the important point is that the blessings, many times we look at the blessings as material things. And the blessings, they can be these gifts that go way beyond the material aspect. So everything that we do on our day-to-day, as we focus on our growth as eternal beings, what God is paying attention is not the short-term satisfaction that we may want. There is a difference between happiness and desire. So I may have a desire to have an ice cream right now, but I have diabetes. So that my decision to have an ice cream may not be good on my long term. And the same thing happens with God. So if we ask an ice cream when I am not supposed to have ice cream, he's going to say no because he's a good father. He's paying attention. And many times the problem that we face is that we misunderstand the blessing because as spoiled children that many of us are, for us, the blessing is when we get what we want with the very narrow view of the short-term benefit, the material benefit, forgetting that our existence started way before we were in our mother's womb and will continue after we are buried. Because we are God's creatures, even when we are doing all the faux pas, the mistakes that we all do, because we live in a planet that is a planet where suffering is present on everyone's lives, we may forget that he is loving everyone, the good and the bad, the victim and the assassin. They are his kids. Things that we do not understand. Many times, say, God's going to protect me from my enemies. Well, he loves the enemies as well. He's going to protect us for sure. But what we are doing about that? So there is no kind of a special people. He doesn't love us more or less than others. And we were talking about this when studying Kardec earlier today, that many people ask, why me? Why this is happening for me? Why this is cancer is happening in my life? Why did I lose everything, or my job or my husband? And the question is that why not? I am not more special than anybody else. And what we learn is that everything that we go through is a consequence of something that happened in the past that we chose. It's a seed that we planted. And when I look at myself, Anna, my soul holds a lot of personalities, Anna being one of them. A lot of stories, hundreds of stories. And those stories bring a lot of weight. And one of the blessings that we have from God is that we don't remember. And it's great that we don't remember, because it will be awful to have a memory that will probably make us feel guilt of all the horrible things that we did in the past. If we look at the history of the planet, we will see the type of things that human being is able to do, has been capable of doing. And it's not about them. This is us. It was me over there. It was me throwing the stone at the cross. So our history includes successes and a lot of trespasses as well. And we need to correct them. We do have our free will. We are able to do anything we want. Yes, we are. I would say relatively. But the consequences, they are there for us all the time. So going back to the metaphor of the nature, I was thinking about the seed. And if we think about the seed, and I thought about the sower parable as well. So going back to the sower parable, that the sower went to sow, and then he throws the seeds in 4 different types of soil. And the first soil was like asphalt, so the seed didn't grow. The second one, there was some stones, so there was not much depth of soil, so the plant just grew a little bit. The third one, there was these vines that basically overcame the seed, so the seed didn't get sun, so the seed grew a little bit but died. And the third one, it was a fertilized soil, and that the seed grew. And sometimes we find ourselves as as that tree, that seed. In the parable, the comparison that the sower is God, the seed is the message, is Jesus, and the soil is our hearts, is our emotions, our values, right? So it depends on the value. This is one aspect of the seed. The other aspect that I wanted to bring is that sometimes we feel like we are buried, that we have earth like soil on top of our heads, that we cannot breathe. There's no light. And we do not understand that God is preparing us to grow. It feels lonely. And the fact that suffering feels lonely is because each one of us will need to grow to go to that suffering alone. And then what God does, he puts fertilizer. And what are those fertilizers? Are the wake-up calls that we go through. The pains, the sorrows, the losses, material losses, moral losses. Maybe goes there and picks some of the weeds and we don't like that. What are the weeds? Our vices, our problems. And we forget that with that plant food, it will make the soil of our hearts much stronger. We don't like fertilizer. They smell pretty bad. We know what fertilizers are made of. But it's so necessary for us. So we need to remember that God has this universal Wi-Fi. He's always listening. He's everywhere. Today, we have a bunch of technologies that we can use around us. And we can be assured that the technology that God uses is much stronger than that. It's full broadband. There's no downtime, 24/7. The only thing that we need to do is call. How do we call? Through our prayer. He's a very tech-wise guy. We do not need to have a memorized prayer, a complicated prayer. We don't need to be in a specific space. But we need to pick up the phone and call. He's always giving, but we need to pick up the phone. And many of us, when we reach out to God, we want an immediate response. It's like when we send a text message and we can see that he read it and nothing happened. And nothing happened. So God doesn't listen to me. So I say, Lucia, please pray for me because God is not listening to me. Oh, yes, he is. He's listening and he's answering. It's just not the answer that you want. Sometimes the answer takes a little while because it takes a lot of work. But as God keeps giving nonstop to all of us, good and bad, just and unjust, faithful and skeptics, why does he do that if sometimes we are not deserving of that? Because he wants us to bear fruit. Because he wants us to reflect about the divine law, his teachings, and produce good work with it. Even if we are born, even if we are in a situation that is pretty hard. In that situation, we need to blossom and bear fruit wherever we are planted. Even if I have a very difficult family, if it's a hard time at work, if I live in a community that is a mess, he needs our help. And the help will come in a different way. He's not expecting all of us to be like apples or everybody's a banana. No, the beauty is the difference. We will be able to bear fruit in different ways. And I think that the point for us is that if we were to ask ourselves, what will be the harvest that we can give today? What he can take from us today? What type of quality of fruit would be? On the question from the Spirit's book, 6 to 5, this Allan Kardec asked, who is the model, the type, the most perfect one that we should follow? And then we hear that is Jesus. He's the one that we should be inspired for. He's the one who is connected to God. And according to Paul, the apostle of the Gentiles, he was the living and walking God, good news at all times. So when in doubt in terms of what I can do, what I should do, I can look at Jesus and think, okay, so what would Jesus do? Or what were their examples? And here, Emmanuel kind of assess some things. Like, first is to change, to elevate our ideals. We need to get away from just the immediate material things. I need to want more than this, because my material life, my life as Anna, is going to end in 50, 60, 70 years, 90 years, 100 years. I'm gone. I need to think bigger than that. The other thing is that I need to continue to learn. I need to get out of my comfort zone, because the only way that that poor seed is going to grow is that if the seed breaks the skin. The seed needs to break the skin. And the other thing is the aspiration. We need to aspire to be better. And many times we like the same thing. We don't like change. People don't like change. Nobody likes change. But Emmanuel is basically saying these are requirements. If we want to honor our Father, to really love our Father, we need to open ourselves to Him. We need to turn on our own Wi-Fi connection and maybe become a hotspot and start giving to others, so He can give to others actually through us. We can be His arms, His eyes, His mouth. So how do we apply this into our daily life? So we can use the prayers, we can reflect on our actions every night. St. Augustine basically said that every night before you go to bed, have you done everything you could do? Would you do something different? If you hurt someone, go and say, I'm sorry. We also need to think how we are bearing fruit, not only for our personal growth, but how am I touching other people's hearts? If I were to die tomorrow, because I don't know when I'm going to die, and, for all of us, we will someday, how will be reminded what type of acts of love and generosity I have. And the last one is really to trust the process, because we don't know the process. We know that spiritual growth takes time. So we need to be patient and faithful into this journey. On the question 649, the spirits remind us that prayer is important. Jesus told us vigilance and prayer. These are conditions. For those who have read the book Paul and Stephen, when Abigail talks to Paul, Paul is in desperation, and then he falls asleep. He asks for guidance, and then the love of his life shows up during his dream, and basically he asks, so what can I can do to understand Jesus' teachings? And then she says, love. One word. And then he asks again, how can I be better? How can I enrich myself on the divine virtue? And then he said, work, do the work. And then he goes, how can I do not be discouraged? And I said, be patient. And then the last one, how can I reconcile with people who do not understand me? Forgive. So he was like babbling a bunch of things. And then people who read the book say, la, 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 and said one word, Abigail answers one word: love, work, patience, and forgiveness. And that's basically saying, Paul, walk the talk. You know the recipe. So you need to bear your fruit. It needs to be sweet, not sour. It needs to be ripe, not spoiled. It needs to be every day. And this is the invitation that we have for you all for tonight, that each one of us receive this invitation from Jesus to bear our fruit wherever we are, that we remember that we are here for a reason, that Jesus, God, is counting on us to do something for others, not only for ourselves. So as we start our spiritual Passe, I want tonight to follow the prayer from St. Augustine, which I think it's very much aligned with this conversation that Emmanuel had with us tonight. On his sayings, on his simple prayer, he starts like this. And I invite you to all close your eyes, sit, take a deep breath, and just feel the words from St. Francis. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. So this is the message for us, to follow Jesus' steps, to follow one of his great disciples that was St. Francis. And may we all bring this prayer to our hearts and reflect on these words, bringing them to our daily lives. So thank you for listening. I wish you all a great night and see you next time. Have a good night.